The Republican conference, Congressman Tom Cole of Oklahoma, he said he'd support the Republican nominee for president. But before we get to that, your Oklahoma district just took a big hit from severe weather. How are your constituents doing this morning?
Well, thank you for bringing that up. They're doing well. Sadly, we're pretty experienced and good at this. We did have some loss of life, nothing as devastating as we did in 2013. And fortunately, most of the tornadoes were in rural areas, no towns with major hits. So we'll get through it okay. And hey, like every Oklahoman, this morning we're just happy the Thunder won last night over the Spurs. So we're in good shape.
All right. Well, good to hear. Let's talk about Donald Trump and the impact on the Republican Party, your Republican Party and my Republican Party. The front page of the Washington Post this morning talks about senators and want safe seats, now fearing for their political future. Roy Blunt, Missouri senator, not going to the convention, just like John McCain and several others. But you've got states like Arizona, North Carolina, Missouri that would normally be safe, now are not safe. Does Donald Trump make it harder for these Republican senators to get reelected?
No, I don't think so. Look, I think the volatility in the political environment is what putting every incumbent in both parties at danger. There's a lot of anger at Washington, D.C., so I don't think this is particularly associated with Donald Trump. And indeed, he's partly a product of that deeper phenomenon. People are looking for an outsider, they're looking for a change agent. That was his great strength in the primary process. I think that's probably his strongest asset in the general election.
Will you go to the? Will you be going to the convention? And
I haven't missed one since '76. I'm certainly not going to miss this one.
And will you go there as as unconditional supporter of Donald Trump?
Look, I said at the beginning of the process I was going to support the Republican nominee regardless. It looks like that's going to be Mr. Trump, assuming it is, and I think it would take an act of God for it not to be at this point. I'll certainly be voting for him in November.
What if a independent candidate jumps in that you're more in line with ideologically and on policy?
I think it's awful late for that. Look, I think you've got three choices. You can vote for Hillary Clinton and elect her and lose the presidency, the Supreme Court, maybe the Senate, maybe the House. You can vote for Donald Trump. We have a much better chance of being successful in the Senate, the House. Or you can vote for a third party, and that's almost always a wasted vote. I think it would be this time.
You don't think the conditions are ripe, actually, for a third party when you look at the disapproval ratings of both candidates and you actually look at both of these candidates and the reality that is taking place across the country, and you look at Bernie Sanders' crowds? You don't think this is ripe for a third party?
No, that's not what I said. Look, I think 1992 was ripe for a third party, too, but the third party didn't win. And I don't see the likelihood that that would happen. If it was a third party from the right, you're going to elect Hillary Clinton. If it's a third party from the left, you're going to elect Donald Trump. And so I think at the end of the day, that'll actually push at least the traditional Republican and Democratic leaders toward their nominee.
Congressman, everyone's making a big deal out of this meeting that's going to take place Thursday. Elements of the Republican leadership, Donald Trump. You know Paul Ryan fairly well. You've worked with him for quite some time. What would be one or two of the most vivid differences, philosophically and ideologically, between the Speaker and the Republican candidate for President Donald Trump?
Well, I think obviously, as Paul himself pointed out, they differed on the Muslim issue earlier in the campaign. Probably their tone and style, to say the least, is contrasting. On the other hand, there's a lot of common ground there, too. They both want tax reform. While they may have some different ideas on foreign policy, they both think the Obama foreign policy has been a failure. And at the end of the day, I think they both understand that for either to be successful in November, they're going to have to be singing from the same sheet of music and supporting one another. They don't have to agree with one another on everything, but I think they've got to find common ground. I think this discussion will lead them in that direction.
One of the things that we did as a party after losing 2 presidential campaigns was what we morbidly called an autopsy, and its findings concluded that we needed to bring more women and more people of color into the party. Does that effort become easier or harder with Donald Trump as our nominee?
Look, I think it becomes different, and he's a very unique phenomenon. Look, I think this year just about anything is possible. You saw the polls yesterday morning. I mean, the national polls, they were within 5 points of one another. In the swing states, you had Trump up by 3 in Ohio, down by 1 in Florida and Pennsylvania. Those are pretty impressive numbers, and it suggests to me that there's a lot of coming together on the Republican side. Now, again, there's a lot of work to do here. I think the Speaker was exactly right when he said we shouldn't pretend we're unified when we're not. But I think everybody is making the right moves. I was very impressed with Mr. Trump's tone in talking about the upcoming meeting. Very impressed with Paul Ryan being open. Look, we're not going to have a situation, in my view, where we have a Republican Speaker that presides over a convention and doesn't support the nominee. Nor can we afford in a fall campaign with so much at stake to have our nominee and our Speaker on having a major riff or row. So I think the political imperatives are for people to find common ground. They're clearly trying to do that. I think they'll succeed, and I think we're going to have an awfully competitive and awfully close fall election. Hey,
Congressman, is Kevin Durant going to re-sign with the Thunder?
Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. This is your Washington fantasy, Hey, we love him, and we love his mom, and we want to keep them right in Oklahoma City where they belong.
Nice.
Some of us want him to come home.
Tom,
I know you do. Hey, Eugene, he is home.
Oh, boy.
Fighting words.
Okay, guys. Tom Cole, thank you so much.